The sacred shells of Tyre, birth of an empire's obsession. The Mediterranean sun blazed mercilessly over the ancient port of Tyre as thousands of murex shells lay scattered across the rocky shores, their spiral forms hiding a secret that would shape the destiny of empires. Each shell contained no more than a few drops of a precious fluid, a yellowish secretion that, when exposed to sunlight, transformed into the most coveted color in the ancient world, Tyrian purple. This was not merely a dye. This was liquid power. The process was as laborious as it was mysterious. Phoenician craftsmen, their hands permanently stained by their trade, would crack open tens of thousands of murex shells to extract microscopic amounts of the precious fluid. The stench was overwhelming. Rotting shellfish mixed with urine and salt created an odor so putrid that dye workshops were banished to the outskirts of cities. Yet this nauseating process produced something Romans would kill for, a color so deep, so vibrant, that it seemed to glow with divine authority. But why did Romans become so obsessed with this particular shade? The answer lay not in aesthetics, but in economics and psychology. Purple dye was the world's first luxury monopoly. A single pound of purple-dyed silk cost more than most Romans earned in a lifetime. The color became synonymous with exclusivity not by law, but by simple mathematics. Only the most powerful could afford it. When Roman legions first encountered purple-clad Phoenician merchants in the marketplaces of conquered territories, they witnessed something unprecedented, a color that commanded instant respect. Carthaginian generals wore purple cloaks into battle. Eastern kings draped themselves in purple robes during diplomatic meetings. The message was clear. Purple meant power, and power demanded recognition. The Romans, ever practical in their conquest strategies, understood immediately that controlling purple meant controlling a symbol that transcended language, culture, and geography. They didn't just want to wear purple, they wanted to own the very concept of purple itself. Marcus Licinius Crassus, one of Rome's wealthiest citizens, once paid the equivalent of 12 Roman villas for a single purple cloak. But this wasn't vanity, it was investment. When Crassus appeared in the Senate wearing his purple-trimmed toga, every senator in the room understood the message. Here was a man whose wealth rivaled nations, whose influence could make or break careers. The transformation was gradual but inevitable. What began as a Phoenician luxury became a Roman obsession. Roman matrons competed ruthlessly for the deepest shades of purple. Wealthy merchants bankrupted themselves pursuing purple-dyed textiles. The color became Rome's first status symbol, visible proof of success that could be worn and displayed. Yet beneath this surface obsession lay a deeper truth. Purple represented something Romans valued above all else: hierarchy. In a society built on rigid social structures, purple provided instant visual classification. A citizen's worth could be measured in the depth of purple they wore, the amount of purple trim on their clothing, the size of purple stripes on their togas. The Phoenicians had created more than a dye. They had created a language of power that Romans would adopt, adapt, and ultimately weaponize. As Roman influence spread across the Mediterranean, so did the demand for purple. Trade routes that once carried grain and olive oil now prioritized purple-dyed goods. Roman merchants established exclusive relationships with Tyrian dye masters, securing supplies that would become the foundation of political careers. But this was only the beginning. As Rome transformed from republic to empire, purple would evolve from a luxury item into something far more dangerous, a political weapon that could crown emperors and destroy dynasties. The shells of Tyre had given birth to an obsession that would reshape the Roman world forever. The imperial monopoly when purple became treason. The year was 14 CE, and Augustus lay dying in his villa at Nola. As the first Roman emperor drew his final breaths, one detail consumed the minds of those gathered around his deathbed. Who would inherit the right to wear the imperial purple? This was not a question of fashion, it was a matter of life and death. Augustus had done something unprecedented in Roman history. He had transformed purple from a luxury into a law. Through a series of carefully crafted edicts and unwritten rules, he had established the principle of imperial purple, the idea that certain shades and quantities of purple belonged exclusively to the emperor and his immediate family. Violating this monopoly wasn't just expensive, it was treasonous. The transformation began subtly. Augustus, ever the political strategist, understood that symbols mattered as much as legions. He couldn't simply declare himself different from other Romans. He had to make that difference visible, undeniable, and legally protected. Purple provided the perfect solution. The Imperial Purple regulations were masterfully crafted. Citizens could wear small amounts of purple trim, but only on specific garments and only in certain shades. Senators were permitted purple stripes on their togas, but the width and intensity were strictly regulated. Wealthy merchants could purchase purple-dyed accessories, but never in the deep, true Tyrian purple reserved for imperial use. But it was the enforcement that revealed the true genius and danger of Augustus's purple monopoly. Imperial agents, known as the frumentarii, patrolled markets and social gatherings, their trained eyes scanning for unauthorized purple displays. A citizen wearing the wrong shade of purple could find themselves accused of treason against the emperor's divine authority. The case of Marcus Scribonius Libo perfectly illustrated the deadly seriousness of purple violations. In 16 CE, this young senator appeared at a public ceremony wearing a cloak with purple borders that were judged too wide and too deep in color. Within days, he faced formal charges of assuming imperial prerogatives. The trial was swift, the verdict predetermined. Libo chose suicide over execution, but his family's property was confiscated, and his name was struck from public records. This wasn't exceptional, it was the new normal. Under Tiberius, purple violations became a favored tool for eliminating political rivals. Caligula turned purple enforcement into a sadistic game, publicly humiliating senators whose purple was deemed inappropriate. Claudius systematized the regulations, creating detailed laws that specified exactly which Romans could wear which shades under which circumstances. The economic implications were staggering. By controlling purple, emperors controlled vast wealth. Imperial workshops in Constantinople employed thousands of workers who produced purple dye and textiles exclusively for the imperial court. The profits funded public works, military campaigns, and the elaborate ceremonies that reinforced imperial authority. But the psychological impact was even more profound. Purple became a constant reminder of imperial presence. Every Roman citizen, from the humblest farmer to the most powerful senator, was forced to confront daily visual evidence of the emperor's supreme authority. The color permeated Roman consciousness, creating a society where political hierarchy was literally worn on people's bodies. The most chilling aspect of the imperial purple monopoly was its efficiency as a surveillance tool. Citizens learned to police themselves and each other. Wearing the wrong purple meant risking denunciation by neighbors, friends, even family members. Social gatherings became exercises in careful observation: who wore what, how much purple was displayed, whether the shades fell within acceptable parameters. Imperial purple also created a new form of political theater. When emperors appeared in public wearing their full purple regalia, the visual impact was overwhelming. The deep, rich color seemed to absorb light, making the emperor appear larger than life. Witnesses described feeling physically diminished in the presence of imperial purple, as if the color itself possessed supernatural authority. Yet this monopoly contained the seeds of its own vulnerability. By making purple the ultimate symbol of imperial power, emperors had created a target for ambitious rivals. The phrase "assuming the purple" became synonymous with claiming imperial authority. Every successful coup in Roman history involved the dramatic moment when the new emperor first donned the imperial purple, transforming from rebel to legitimate ruler through the power of color alone. The imperial purple monopoly had achieved Augustus's goal. It made imperial authority visible, undeniable, and legally protected. But it had also created something unintended, a weapon that could be turned against any emperor brave enough or foolish enough to claim exclusive ownership of a color. Purple Revolution, the color that made and destroyed emperors. The Praetorian Guard surrounded the trembling figure of Claudius as he cowered behind a curtain in the imperial palace. The year was 41 CE, and Caligula lay dead in the corridors above, his blood pooling beneath his purple-trimmed toga. But the guards weren't interested in the terrified scholar they had found hiding. They were interested in what he could become. In the moment that would reshape Roman history, they draped the imperial purple around Claudius's shoulders and proclaimed him emperor. This was the moment that revealed purple's ultimate power. It didn't just represent imperial authority, it created it. The transformation was instantaneous and irreversible. One moment, Claudius was a stammering, overlooked member of the imperial family. The next, wrapped in purple, he was the most powerful man in the known world. The color had performed a kind of political alchemy, transmuting weakness into strength, insignificance into supreme authority. But this magical transformation came with a price. Once an emperor claimed the purple, he could never safely remove it. The color that elevated him also trapped him. Throughout Roman history, emperors who lost control of their purple regalia rarely survived the experience. The crisis of 68 to 69 CE, the year of the four emperors, demonstrated purple's revolutionary potential with devastating clarity. When Nero fled Rome in disgrace, his abandoned purple robes became the most contested prize in the empire. Galba seized them first, declaring himself emperor, but within 7 months Otho's soldiers had stripped the purple from Galba's corpse and wrapped it around their own candidate. The purple changed hands again when Vitellius's legions defeated Otho, and yet again when Vespasian's forces emerged victorious from the final confrontation. Each transfer of purple marked not just a change in leadership, but a complete transformation of the Roman political landscape. Armies fought not just for territory or gold, but for the right to possess a color. Vespasian, the ultimate victor, understood purple's power better than any of his predecessors. He had observed how the color could legitimize any claim to authority, regardless of birth, wealth, or traditional qualifications. Vespasian was not from the ancient aristocracy. He was the son of a tax collector. Yet, when he wore the imperial purple, noble senators who had dismissed him as a provincial upstart now bowed in his presence. The Flavian dynasty's relationship with purple revealed another crucial aspect of the color's political function: inheritance. When Vespasian died, the purple passed seamlessly to his son Titus, then to Domitian. The color had become a form of political DNA, carrying imperial authority from one generation to the next without the need for Senate approval or popular consent. But purple's power to create emperors was matched by its power to destroy them. Domitian discovered this when Praetorian conspirators murdered him in 96 CE. The first act of the assassins was to strip the purple from his body, not from greed, but from understanding that leaving him clothed in imperial purple, even in death, might inspire loyalist resistance. The most dramatic demonstration of purple's revolutionary potential came during the crisis of the 3rd century. Between 235 and 284 CE, the empire witnessed 50 emperors, most of whom met violent deaths. In this chaotic period, purple became a kind of deadly contagion. Ambitious generals, desperate governors, and opportunistic administrators all reached for the imperial purple, knowing that possessing it offered their only chance of survival in an increasingly unstable world. The story of Aurelian illustrates this perfectly. A career soldier from humble origins, he claimed the purple during a moment of military crisis. His enemies mocked his low birth and lack of political connections. But when Aurelian appeared before the Senate wearing the full imperial purple regalia, opposition melted away. The color transformed him from a provincial nobody into someone senators addressed as Dominus et Deus, Lord and God. Yet Aurelian's fate also demonstrated purple's fatal weakness. When his own officers assassinated him in 275 CE, they immediately destroyed his purple robes to prevent any loyalist from claiming legitimacy through his regalia. The color that had made him emperor ultimately contributed to his destruction. The psychological impact of these purple revolutions extended far beyond the imperial court. Ordinary citizens learned to read political change through color. When new purple banners appeared in public spaces, when different purple insignia decorated official documents, when unfamiliar purple-clad figures appeared at public ceremonies, these visual cues told Romans everything they needed to know about who held power and how that power had been acquired. By the late empire, purple had evolved into something unprecedented in human history, a color that functioned as a complete political system. It could legitimize authority, transfer power, inspire loyalty, justify rebellion, and mark the boundaries between legal rule and treasonous ambition. The Romans had discovered something that modern political scientists are only beginning to understand. Symbols don't just represent power, they create it. A piece of purple cloth could transform a nobody into an emperor, a rebel into a legitimate ruler, a victim into a tyrant. Purple had become more than a color. It was a weapon, a crown, a death sentence, and a revolution all wrapped into one. It was the most potent political tool ever devised, and it had shaped Roman civilization in ways that would echo through history for millennia to come. The empire that began with shells on a Phoenician beach had created a legacy written in the deepest, most dangerous shade of purple ever imagined. If you found this exploration of Roman power and symbolism fascinating, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into ancient history. Hit that like button if you learned something new, and let me know in the comments. Which aspect of Roman purple culture surprised you the most? Your engagement helps us bring you more content that uncovers the hidden stories behind history's greatest civilizations.